In this video, we will be following on from the getSingleTask API and implementing the deleteSingleTask. So if we open up Atom, and from where we left off, if we scroll up, this is the get request, so that was to get the single task. I'm just going to collapse that, because now we're going to concentrate on the deleteSingleTask. I'm just going to make some space here, and we'll go straight in, and what we need to do is attempt to delete the row from the database. Because we already have the task ID up here, we should be able to just go straight in and implement the delete row. So we need to try and catch, just like we did previously, and it's PDO exception. Oops. Scroll down a bit so I can see where we're going. So in here we need to build the query up to delete. So query, and because we're deleting, this is not a read-only request, so now we'll be connecting to the right database. So we need to call this query against the right database. So write-db prepare, and we need to write the SQL statement. Now what we want to do is delete from TBL tasks where the ID is equal to the passed in ID. So delete from TBL tasks where ID equals was task ID. Remember, we're using placeholders here. So the next thing we need to do is bind the parameter. So query bind param, and it was task ID, and the parameter was, or the variable was task ID, and the type was PDO param int, and then we just need to try and execute it. Okay, so we'll call the row count on the query, because that should return the amount of rows that it's deleted. Now, because we're passing in a unique ID, then it should just be one row, so we'll be able to check to make sure it has deleted something. So yeah, we need to get the row count. So row count equals query row count, and then we do the check. So if the row count is equal to 0, then we need to send our unsuccessful return response. So we'll build a response. So new response, and then response set HTTP status code. Now generally what will happen here, if there was an error deleting it, it should be caught by the PDO exception. However, if it attempts this query but it doesn't delete any rows, then what it is basically the task ID mustn't be found. A row mustn't exist with an ID of the passed in ID. So going back to what we did before, where we provided a task ID but there was no row for that task ID, it was a 404 error. So we'll return a 404 code because it is not found, it's task not found. And we will set the success flag to false, and we'll add a message. And we'll just say task not found. So it's very similar to the previous message that were created. And then response send, and then exit. So that'll try and delete. If it's successfully deleted, that row count should be 1. So we handle if it's 0. So if it hasn't deleted anything, then we send a standard response with a 404 task not found. However, if it is successful, we create a new response. So yeah, so response equals new response and set HTTP status code. Obviously you see the pattern here, we're just creating lots of responses depending on the logic. So the status code, if it's successful, would be 200 because that's an OK status code. And we'll set the success, and that is true. And we'll set a message. We'll just say task deleted. So response send and exit. Oops. Okay, so that's that. Let's get rid of the white space. So this one's actually a really simple one. It tries to delete. If it has deleted something, if it hasn't deleted anything, then it comes up with task not found. If it has deleted something, it sends a successful response back to the client. So what we need to do now is handle the error response where there's some sort of connection issue or query issue. So I'll scroll down. Response. Oops. New response. And this is like a catch-all sort of error. So response set HTTP status code, and obviously if there's a PDO exception, that means there's a server error. So it's 500. Response set success false. And we want to add a message. Oops, put that in a quote. Fail to delete task. Then we'll send and exit. Okay, so get rid of this white space. So that should be it for the delete. So prepare to delete, that's fine. Yep, that's looking good. So what we should be able to do now is test this. So let's get the white space. So if we try and send a delete to task 1, we'll just go back to our MAMP. Task 1 is still there, so we'll just try and delete that. So go to Postman, change it to delete. And what we're going to do here is use our root, so HTTP localhost 8888. Now it was version 1. Now we're now using the prettified version because we set it up. So it was tasks/1. So deleting the task with ID 1. So send. So that looks like it has successfully deleted the tasks, 200 status code, success true, and task deleted. So if we quickly go back to the database, refresh that, and you can see now task 1 has been deleted. So that's working. So now if we go back to Postman and just change this to get, so now that we've deleted it, we'll just try and retrieve it again. Task not found. So there you go. That successfully shows that we've deleted the task. So if I go to delete, and then if we choose the task 7 like we did before, it doesn't exist, and send it, we'll get a 404, which is correct. Task not found. So that shows you that the logic for delete is working fine. We'll quickly go back to Atom. So delete's all successfully done now. Now the next part of the single task functionality, so we've got retrieve, we've got delete. The next one would be to update a single task. This one is pretty complex, the logic in this. So what we'll do, we'll actually come back to this. We'll come back to this in a later lesson.